So with that land, maybe there were caves underneath there, and
Yes,
wave used to
Probably.
break.
it used to
Wave
just
used to
kick it
break
out.
underneath there in the cave.
Yeah.
You know, I always will remember that road because that was the main road to go to Lambeau. That was
And to
our,
licensing.
yes, that
Yeah.
was the thoroughfare. You know, we didn't have that road to come across or no highway, nothing as that. That was the thoroughfare that used to take you from Scarborough to Canaan, take you to the airport. You understand me? Until they build the Claude Noel Highway.
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 And as a child, when you go into Scarborough for school sports, you understand me? That's the road the bus will take with you. Or if they drop you off half the way, you walk that and you go up to a track there and then you get right into Shaw Park.
Yes.
Right.
You know? But the landscape changing in Tobago, but the people not changing.
No.
And we're supposed to change
With time.
with the land,
Yeah.
with time.
Amen.
Our minds are supposed to grow and we're supposed to develop. Yes. And we as a people, I'm hearing something is in my head. Yes. 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 And maybe I'm doing good. And but it was a styling thing now. You know, Mama Coco is life and style. So I want to
Yes.
always bring something. But if people not ready for it, or if management not ready for it, I have to do something else. You know, I'm hearing I have something in my head. I really can't see it now, and I'm not going to distract my show. Avanel, you have told us everything that you can.
Well,
You have told us everything that you can remember there with your schooling in Tobago. Avanel and Stephanie now. Tell us what was it like for you to come of age as a young woman in Tobago. That is your periods, the sex talk, and dating within the Roman Catholic tradition. Stephanie, you
boys was
start
not allowed.
first. Stephanie, you will give us your answer first.
Well, as for me, my mother was a teacher and I love reading. So when I was the first of 4 children. So when I was about 8, 9, my mother bought me a book on puberty.
Mm,
Okay. Now, my
that
mother
was
was a teacher.
nice.
Yeah, I used to go to school with her in Patience Hill because she taught at Delaford, and then she moved back to Patience Hill where she was from originally. So when I started to go to Patience Hill, when I left in Standard 3 and I went across to Scarborough RC. So in Standard 4, Sister Matthews was my teacher. Bernadette Allen was my teacher in Standard 5 with Mr. Hills and
My God,
everybody.
all these people gone.
All these
Yeah.
people. Yeah. No, Miss
Alum?
Mitchell, Miss Allen is still alive.
Oh,
She
awesome.
is Skipper Mitch's daughter. And Skipper
Yes.
Mitch was my mother principal because she was a pupil teacher, and it was so amazing to be taught by Skipper Mitch's daughter, in Standard 5. Anyway, she gave me this book about
Skipper Mitch is the
puberty.
guy who had this high school.
Yes.
Teacher
So
Mitchell.
he used to be a primary school teacher. He is parent to and the lady who was the librarian. I can't remember her married name, but she was a Mitchell. She had a sister named Pat, and she had a sister named Bernadette. Bernadette was the middle one, Pat was the small one, and Anne was the one who was in charge of the library. She used to be a librarian. Anyway, I had my book on sex education. So I took my book to school, and people were reading from my book, and I got in trouble. Because I was sharing my information with children in school because I would show them, because in the book it had about the birds and the bees and about menstruation and it's good to be a boy and it's good to be a girl. And I was showing people my book. Everybody was my friend because they wanted to read the book. I got in trouble for sharing my book on sex education at school. And then I got licked straight because my mother said, why did you take it to school? And I'm like, but mommy, if it's a good book, why I can't share it with my friends?
Catholic, not a Catholic school.
It's not allowed.
She said,
No.
I got in big trouble for it. I got licks in school and then I got licks home because she said I wasn't supposed to take it out of the house. But I said, but mommy, if the book good to teach me about the birds and the bees and yes. Thank you very much, Colvin. Anne Mitchell Giff was it, that's Mr. Skipper Mitch, his first daughter. And that was my lesson in sex education. So I read about puberty. I knew what menstruation was. My mother prepared me for it mentally, but lots of children had no idea. Their parents would tell them, don't talk to boys. And it was even more ironical when I became a healthcare professional and worked in the community. You will see the problems that existed in discussing sex education with children. And working as a midwife, you will have teenage mothers because they go and they play with boys, get pregnant at 8 and 9. They never had the menstruation started, and they get pregnant. And so the mother would bring them into hospital because they have tummy pain, and they labor. You understand? Nobody know they're pregnant. So, it's something that needs to be addressed and addressed seriously so that people would know about sex education. And the other thing is, when sometimes they start menstruating, the girls get scared. They think they get cut or something and start to cry, and they mess up themselves, so they don't know what's happening. So you need to not just tell them.
Have the conversation.
Have the conversation at their level and do it in a professional way. For me, I feel that parents should talk to the children in English. Don't tell them about funny words to the genitalia, funny words to the penis and that kind of thing. When
so
you find it a problem when abuse happens because the child will tell you somebody touched their funny name. And that is not a norm. That is not a name. You understand? So sometimes the only way you could really identify abuse, children are quite graphic and they will draw. So that sometimes is the redemption and with implicate the perpetrator. But if you start from small and you need to talk to your children from small, tell them the proper names to their breasts, the sex organs, so that they will be able to communicate properly and they will understand. And when they go online, nobody could groom them, nobody could fool them because they understand what they're dealing with. So we need to be more open because you don't tell them, somebody's going to tell them. And they mightn't tell them the right thing. And that is very sad to see what happens when they're not told the right thing.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? Their friends will tell them. Like when I used to tell my daughter and people tell her stuff, she said, no, my mommy said so and so. And I pass on the same values to my daughter. I explain to her stuff from young. I would give her a pad before her periods come so that when it came, I tell her, you need to go to this teacher, lady teacher, and tell her what happened. And they would know. But in our culture, culturally, we're not socialized that way. We use fear, intimidation to prevent people from becoming sexually active, and it doesn't work.
Knowing that is not only a baby you can get because of sex.
Exactly. So you have the
they
other
can get
implications of
diseases.
sexually transmitting diseases. And some people, like in our culture, we talk about pen up your hen and let go your cock. So you guard the girls and you let the boys loose, which is wrong. Because in this day and age, boys and girls are vulnerable.
Thank you.
Boys and girls can be abused. So you have to be very mindful of that. And as a matter of fact, boys are even more vulnerable because there is less caution with boys. So they're more vulnerable. They're exposed to more perpetrators.
Yes. Well, Avi, you have a task
Well,
on your hand here. So you
I
tell us.
I am the complete opposite because I am in my 35 years, my mother still has not had that conversation with me. Um, when it came to the period, for me, it's still an awkward conversation. When I first had my period, it came at a very early age. I was 8 when I first had my period.
Oh, what?
It was
Wow.
my daughter she's had the same early period onset. So it doesn't
So you
wait
didn't ask your
for.
mommy what age she had hers?
She said she
Conversation.
had hers very early also. I did.
Ah.
She said she had hers very early also. Um, Now when I was younger, I had some medical condition that a doctor trumped up to maybe some sort of an infection where I used to urinate blood. And I remember when I saw it that day, I said, "Mommy, it started back again. I'm peeing blood again." And she said, "What do you mean? Are you back using the soap again?" And I said, "No, it just happened." And so my great aunt at that time, she knew exactly what it was. And she called me. We didn't have any pad back in those days. Um, I didn't have no pad back in those days. She went and, they used to collect scrap cloths. Scrap cloths back in the days were beddings for people who didn't have beds for their kids. You rewash them, whatever. And she got some scrap cloth. She cut a
Half.
piece and she said, "Fold it." Go ahead.
They used to call it half clad.
Half
Yeah.
blood.
Yeah.
Ah.
And she cut it. She told me to fold it, or she showed me how to fold it, and she told me what to do with it. And she said, now she said to me, you're a woman now. You have to make sure you pay more attention to cleanliness. So you have to bathe more often. You can't be around boys. You can't go in the water when you're on that. And for me, boys were a no-no. It wasn't no
Wow.
boyfriend, no. I was too tomboyish, to be honest with you. I was not into boys like that. I was the girl that climbed trees. I was down on the soccer field playing soccer with those boys as the only girl in the village playing soccer with the boys on the soccer field. So I really wasn't looking at boys in that manner. I really wasn't for a long time. Probably not until I got to high school, and I still didn't like them. They were still, to me, sweaty boys, sweaty, messy boys back then. So I just kind of, it wasn't something that my mother had to worry about. That I had enough deterrence from boys to not go that route.
Boy, oh boy, I got my period between 12 and a half to 13. Form 1 going into Form 2, I think somewhere there in Roxborough Secondary School. I didn't have an early period.
Wow.
And it's shocking to me now to hear that 8-year-old and 9-year-old having periods. I never know
Yep.
it like that. No, girls
Yep.
used to get their periods so late. Some of us had was to be taken to doctors, for doctor to really induce it somehow or the other or say something. I really was shocked when I came to America here, and then that was then. I don't know if the food wasn't too good, if we wasn't eating the right thing as young people in those days. But right now, the young children, the current definition of age now for black girls is 7, 8, and 9. That's the age,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
is ridiculous because then
Yep.
once they're having that period, they could be mothers. They don't have the body prepared to be mothers, do they?
Yeah.
Do they? I don't
No,
think so.
no. Can
No,
I say
not ready.
something? I was a late bloomer. My mother started to get worried because I had the book and nothing was happening. So she took me to the doctors, and it eventually came. So I started late. I started like at 14, 15. I had my periods late. But the thing about it is, I was doing this study with this doctor I was working with, and we were it was aligned also to uterine fibroids based on our diet. If you notice that I have had women who I have delivered 9-year-olds already, right? So they never actually started having a period, but they had sex and they were fertile enough to get pregnant. And why you're having all these 7, 8, and 9-year-olds being able to have a baby is because of all that. We eat a lot of chicken. Chickens are the 6 weeks chicken. They have lots of hormones. The hormone levels are very high. So you have a little chick, and in 5 weeks, it's getting ready to get killed. So the hormones stay in the meat, in the milk, and in the eggs, and in the everything that we eat. The hormones are the levels are high.
Stephanie, I want you to look in the camera. Yes.
I'm looking.
Yes, stay put. Stay like that. The minute you turn away, it's a kind of a distracting for yourself.
Chair.
Yes, yes.
To swing, sorry.
But so what is happening here? I want you to speak with a definition that 9-year-olds doesn't have sex. 9-year-old, they abused.
Exactly. So they get groomed, and most times it's by people known to them.
Yes.
It's by people known to them. So they play around and they don't even know what's happening. And the next thing you know, they're pregnant. Okay, so it's not a normal.
So in the sense, that's rape.
Exactly.
That's rape, and we need to define it as rape. There shouldn't be any consent. Rape. No man could say a 9-year-old gave them consent. That's rape.
Exactly.
That is statutory rape. Yeah.
That is rape, and people should be in jail.
Exactly.
And see, the thing that I noticed with that, especially in Tobago, we have that secrecy thing where we are so concerned with what people think or how they view us that a child will come and explain their situations to a person, an adult, like they should, and there's still that stigma where your own family, they want to keep it hush hush. Sometimes it's even family members, their own family members, and they're so concerned with keeping it hush hush for how they look, just because of how people view them. And it's such a shame. It is such a shame.
Such a shame.
But the thing is, sometimes they know who the perpetrator is, and they would say to you, Nursey, but if he got to jail, who gonna mind my children? You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's a deep point, because that is what most parents, they say, you want to mash up me living. Who gonna mind you?
Yes.
If me let you go to jail, but you are destroying your daughters.
Exactly.
So many people right now, I have a cousin, and she tell me, please get ready to have a conversation on incest, because I believe she is also a victim of such. And she's asking me, some of them marry off their young daughters to rapists. Yes. You understand me? He raped your child, but for secret, and then you the mother feel, well, he doing this child a favor. I know there are teachers that taught us in Roxborough Secondary School that end up marrying their student, because when the secret break, in order for them not to go to jail, they marry that student. That student didn't love them from Adam.
Yeah.
But just because of that incest, that violation, you end up now have to pretend now and telling your children that daddy is such a good man. No, he's not. He raped you. I'm a child of a rapist. Let's get it clear so others can get to learn and grow. So Avanel, are you done with
Yes.
the Roman Catholic tradition of how
Uh,
you had was to be so take so much precaution and be safeguarded because
well,
you're not going to embarrass your mother and your auntie only. You are going to embarrass the Catholic Church.
well, to be honest with you, I because like I said, I was a very inquisitive child. I knew the Bible at that point in high school, in and out, like the back of my hand.
So you
So
knew
I
so,
become,
so you knew about fornication and adultery, the
yes,
meaning of it, yeah.
and I became the questioning child. I had questions and I wanted answers for them, and I felt like the Catholic Church no longer had those answers for me. So I stepped out of the Catholic religion. I am no longer attached to the Catholic religion. I am not attached to any religion because I feel like man made religion and it's gotten so corrupt. However, I am a very spiritual person. I am a very spiritual person. I did my own self seeking.
Wow. So you training up your children on a spiritual level.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
You feed them
I
on a
I
spiritual level.
I take my kids. Well, before I got baptized. I am a born again. I when I came to Philadelphia. Well, to be honest with you, I always wanted to get baptized. In my teenage years, I church hop. Like I said, I was a questioning child, so I church hop at first, and so I moved from Catholic. I sought out to find out a little bit about the Methodist religion because I heard from my mother that's where I was baptized. So I said, well, let me try them and see if they vibe me. I was not I'm not against any Seventh day Adventist. I just have my own opinions about that because I feel like just like man made religion, man made days. And so I'm a little kind of, like I said, questioning child. How are you so sure Saturday is that seventh day and not Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? So I just feel like Sabbath is whatever day you choose to keep holy to yourself, you know? Um, so I moved around and then eventually, when I was going through some trying times, I got hooked up with one of my neighbors when once I moved to live in Tongue or French Field, as I call it. One of my neighbors took me under her wing. Great woman, great woman. Her granddaughter and I became very close friends in high school, and I used to go to church with her every Sunday. I
What
sang in the
church?
church.
What
It
church?
was Church of God, Logwood Park, Church of God.
Mm.
Um, I used to go to church every Saturday, every Sunday. I participated, and we began a Sunday school where we would take in neighborhood children. She would take in neighborhood children and preach the gospel, give them somewhere to come and play and hear about God and keep them, just keep them busy and also informed. Because a lot of the times, as kids, we're left to our own a lot of kids are left to their own devices. Yes.
Someone is asking you a question there. Can it come back before we
No,
lose it?
I am not the granddaughter of Louisa John. Louisa John is my aunt. She is the sister of my grandmother.
Wow.
My grandmother, if anybody knows Delaford, Big Socks from Delaford Windsor Road,
Your
top of the
granddad.
hill, is my grandfather. And Ita Orr is my grandmother, my mother's mother.
So what's the lady that married to Vano is to you?
She's my great grandmother, Maudlin Duke McKenna.
Madeline, yeah, that's what I just want to spread. I just want people
Yes,
to know. So Cindy, you see Avi is your cousin and all kind of sides here. Yes. So right now, Avi, as you were talking about there, a lot of us grew up here in the word French field, but it's
yes,
Friends, Friends.
yes.
Did you
Friendsfield.
know that? Did you know
Yes,
that Did you know that,
Yeah.
Stephanie?
Yeah.
Well, I never knew it was French feel until lately.
Yes.
Yeah,
Friends.
people
Because
say French feel.
there is where most men will drive away with you in the dark.
Oh
Yeah, yeah.
yes. Very sinister.
Oh
There is
yeah.
Sinister.
where most men from country, even Scarborough, especially
Hi, Auntie
policemen,
Erica.
yes, especially policemen, will drive you away in that dark place where all you could see is the white of
Bush.
their
Nothing.
eyes, especially the black, like blacker than you. And they will drive you away, switch off the light, and then they invade your body. I call that
And
very, very traumatic.
Very
if
sinister.
anybody knows that area, to this day, there's not much lighting there. I
No.
remember as a kid, my grandmother, we lived up on the hill, and she didn't have water come into the house. And we had to catch, get buckets and go down to the pipe, which was some distance to get to a standpipe. And while we're down there, we had to wash our clothes. Sometimes in the middle of the night, we're taking baths. And thinking back about it now in hindsight, we were out there
Just
Dangerous.
bathing
another
naked.
hour
We were out there
Dangerous.
bathing naked.
by the
And
standpipe.
at the standpipe is no light. Sometimes we see some car and we run and hide inside the bush. And but in those days I was a teenager. It was very dangerous. But
Yes.
sometimes, what I always say, I used to walk with God. When I go down
Now,
that road, I was walking with God. And
mm.
yeah, it's a very
So
scary
true.
place. It's a very scary place at night.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, can we get 2 questions or statement from anybody? There is Bernard. She's an ex-police woman. Now, woman police, not police woman. She's an ex-woman police. She's saying, exactly.
My mother
Sharon,
did go to farm school, yes.
yes, 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 yes. She went to farm school. There is where the mystery
The green
started.
fingers come
Eh,
from.
The
eh,
started is there.
yeah.
Going for
Yeah.
higher education because she
And
always
she
ambitious.
and she was way too young to have a child, but situations happen.
Yes, it
you know
happens.
that where that conversation never comes up, because even herself, like my mom, her mother never had those conversation of, boys and periods and that kind of stuff. So she got pregnant pretty early, and so did my grandmother. So
You
that
know,
familial.
the first day your father bring her to show me her, she was hiding behind the wall, covering her face, and
Very
all these
shy.
things. And yes, I
Very
love your
shy.
mom. If she listening tonight, Patricia, this is your girl, Cora. I did her makeup and have her dressed for her wedding. She didn't marry to your father. She married to a
Right.
young man from Argyle. What was his name again? I know his name, but tell them.
His name was Anthony Elliott.
Yes, yes, AKA Brody.
Brody. Yeah.
Yes, I dress your mom. I love Patricia, always smooth, not a pimple. Where does use Patricia? Nothing. Just,
Nothing.
just
Still
Vaseline.
nothing. She don't even put on she don't put makeup on her face. It's her little lipstick. She'll do
She
her
didn't even
lipstick and
want
her.
makeup for her wedding. I said, girl, look,
Nope.
I dressing you, I fixing you up. And that
Oh
was
my
one of the
goodness.
most crying I've ever seen, is when the wedding come back up. And they took the bride
She's
upstairs for cousin
to see
Bridget
his mother.
Elliott
Yeah.
to see. And cousin Bridget telling, she said, oh God, Tony, look how she pretty. She gorgeous. You marry a wife, Tony. You don't marry a
Yeah.
slave, Tony. And she just keep repeating it. My cousin Bridget Elliott, may your soul rest in peace.
In
Brody
peace.
wasn't,
Yes.
Brody wasn't her son. Brody was her husband's son.
Son.
And when he came from Goodwood and he came to live in Argyle, she took him like her
Her
son,
son.
even when he
Yeah.
used to come to spend vacation. And my daughter is saying she will never forget that day. She would never forget the pain in cousin Bridget's voice
Yeah.
when she keep
I
telling
remember.
Brody, you marry a wife, not a
Not a
slave.
slave.
Yeah.
and she was expressing her own pain that she was experiencing, that she experienced with Tony's father, with Brody's father.
Absolutely.
I am telling you, oh God, of whom we shall always be willing to give praises and thanksgiving to. May the God of all peace continue to confine in us and to confide in us the truthfulness of life, that words are powerful, and to whom much is given, and I hope is the best is given of people, much is required of the same. Hallelujah. Amen. Patricia, can you sing us a little verse of a song? Am I intruding on you? I don't think so. You are spiritual.
Maybe a little on the spot. Wasn't prepared for this. All right, let me see if I could just figure something out.
Figure it out and answer this
I'll figure
question.
one out at the end of the show. How about that?
Avanel and Stephanie, sure. You know, sometimes when the spirit moves in me, I just have to really be conversational and confronting.
Sing when you're done. What I want to say
Avanel
is
and Stephanie, tell us about the decisions that led you to immigration, to your immigration from Tobago. Well, Avanel, did you go to Trinidad first, or you come straight? Tell us about your movements.
So I stayed in Tobago until I finished high school. However, when I had 1 year left with high school, my mom got her visa status approved. So we were all on the same application, myself, my little sister, who's 7 years younger than I am, and my mother. So they gave us a deadline. We had to travel by a certain time, and we had to leave together. So we couldn't, it wasn't one and then some come. We had to go together. When we came to the United States, it was July 21st, 2000. The first year we came to the United States.
What a circle right now.
Yeah. And it was a scary moment. It was a bittersweet moment because, to be honest, my mom, she was leaving behind our great aunt, and that was a very tough decision she didn't want to have to make. To be honest, she really regretted it to this day that she had to leave her behind. And we traveled up, and it was nighttime, the excitement of seeing the lights and this new strange city. We were in Brooklyn. We traveled to Utica Avenue. He was living in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn, Utica Avenue.
So she was there with her husband?
We came up to be with him, yes. When we came, our paperworks were already ready. We didn't have to wait for a green card. It was already at the house when we got there. So we came straight we got our Social Security, the green cards, everything came all at once. And it was there waiting for us when we got there.
Wow.
So, yeah. And all thanks to Mr. Reed, Casimir Reed. He was the one, because initially it was supposed to only be an application from my mom, and then he was going to file afterwards for the children. And Mr. Reed said to my mother, whatever you do for yourself, do for your children. Whatever paperwork has your name, if you sign your name, sign their name. Add them to it. Add their names to every piece of your document. And so when she did that, yes, when she did that, it came through for all of us. And so it was a great experience. The first year traveling and waking up in New York, it was different. It was a different experience because
Utica and where?
All you saw, it was not home. All you saw were these tall buildings, and they were all together, and nothing but bricks, and you didn't really see much trees. And for somebody growing up in the worst part of the bush that no one wants to go to, No, in Speyside.
In Speyside.
They used to call Speyside behind God's back
Back.
because nobody wants to go to Speyside and then to be on the top of the last house on the top of the hill that nobody wants to go. So
Where you
to
can see
live
down,
around all those,
where you
I
can
saw
see down in
green
the
for
ocean.
miles. I saw green for miles, and we had a beach that was at the back of our house. Not only could we see the front beach, we had access to both views. Like I always used to say, I had the perfect space, this perfect space I'd look out because I could see
Both sides
all
of the
around.
island. Yes.
Both sides of the islands that nobody else could see. We had the perfect house spot. Perfect house spot.